us here at the Nonprofit Exchange. My name is John Hernandez, and I am the Executive Director. The Nonprofit Exchange is a 501c3 technology nonprofit. We work throughout the country, but we primarily focus on Texas. We help nonprofits with technology solutions ranging from fundraising to capacity building to mission development. Every month, we bring in a speaker from around the world to talk about their unique use of technology in this ever-changing world. And today joining us is Ash Collins, Influencer Relations Specialist with the Best Friends Animal Society. And Ash is going to do her intro as well. Thank you again for joining us today, Ash, and thank you for everyone in the audience.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So like John said, my name is Ash. I'm going to be presenting about nonprofits and influencer marketing and how we started doing it at my organization, Best Friends Animal Society. So I'll tell you a little bit about who I am, who Best Friends is, and then kind of how we got started, what we do with our program, and then give a couple examples too of how we've activated influencers. So I'm Ash. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the influencer relations specialist here at Best Friends, and I've been here for about 1.5 years now. But I've been in animal welfare for over 7 years. So I'm located in Madison, Wisconsin. I worked at my local shelter here for about 6 years. I did start in education, and then I had a fundraising role. So I have done direct fundraising in the past. And now I've kind of switched to more this social media influencer marketing role with Best Friends, and I love every minute of it. So this is a picture of me with one of our pigs at our sanctuary that I'll tell you a little bit about in a minute. And when I'm not on social media, I love to quilt, crochet. This is my big yarn wall behind me. And I also am totally obsessed with bats. So I have my bat earrings on today. So Best Friends Animal Society, I'm not sure how many of you have heard of us. We are a national animal welfare organization and leader in the no-kill movement. So we're working to end the killing of cats and dogs in America's shelters by 2025. And so we have life-saving programs across the country with over 3,800 partner shelters and rescues that we work with. So we call them our network partners. So we have programs in Houston, LA, Atlanta, New York, Bentonville, Arkansas, Salt Lake City, and then our home base, so our sanctuary is in Kanab, Utah. We've been around for a little over 35 years. So if you haven't heard of Best Friends, please check us out. Our website is bestfriends.org. Our sanctuary is the largest no-kill sanctuary in the nation. So we house about 1,600 animals there, everything from dogs and cats, which is kind of our main focus here at Best Friends, to horses, pigs, as you saw, goats, chickens, and we also have a wildlife program, and parrots and bunnies. I think I covered everybody there. So influencers, that's what I'm here to talk about. That's what we're wanting to learn about today. So what is an influencer? Why would you want to work with influencers? How does this help your organization? So an influencer is a person or a group of people who possess a greater than average potential to cause desirable or measurable actions and outcomes. So that's somebody who will influence their community. And so a lot of times when people think of influencers, they think of celebrities. Industry experts can also be influencers, so whether that's journalists, people in academics, industry experts, professional advisors, those are all would also be considered influencers. But the main ones I'm going to focus on today are bloggers and then content creators. So those are the people that are creating content for their social media platforms, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Pinterest, all of the different platforms. So those are kind of our main focuses, Twitter as well. And so when you think of influencers, there are a couple of different levels that they're kind of broken up to. So they come in all different shapes and sizes. And everybody, when they first hear about the mega influencers, they're like, that's who I want to work with. I want to work with the D'Amelios of the world. I want to work with the Casey Hamiltons of TikTok. I want to work with those people. And so you'll see like those people, they have like over 1 million followers. That might not actually be the best strategy for your brand. And so we'll talk about that too. But there's different levels. So mega influencers have over 1 million. So that is those bigger accounts. Macro would be about 500,000 to 1 million followers. Mid-tier would be 50 to 500,000. Micro, which is kind of the more common, that's what most of our influencer partners would kind of fit into the mid-tier to micro level. They're 10,000 to 50,000 followers, and then nano influencers are 1,000 to 10,000. You might see there's kind of different, these aren't like, say, like hard and fast numbers that we've used to define these levels of influencers. There are some differentiations across online if you look up how somebody might define a mega influencer versus someone else. But these are kind of the general, this is the numbers that we use here at Best Friends. And so while people say, man, I want to work with those mega influencers, it's important to see that micro influencers have a much higher engagement rate than the macro influencers typically have. And so that engagement rate means the followers, the interaction the followers are having with that content. So while Charli D'Amelio might have millions of followers, if those followers aren't commenting, liking, interacting with her posts, they're not engaged with her content as much as some of these followers could be for the nano and micro levels. And so we can see here that the micro influencers have an average of 41.7% higher engagement rate than those macro influencers. So while they do have a smaller audience, they're engaging with their audience on a much higher level. And so this is a great chart too that we love. It was published by social media giant Later. And you can see here a really nice breakdown of engagement rate and different types of posts and the different levels of influencers. So you see those small nano influencers, they had a 4% engagement rate on average of all their posts, as well as sponsored posts that they're doing with corporations and businesses, versus those mega and macro influence, or the mega macro. So kind of a different term, but still mega influencers is what we call them here at Best Friends. They had a much lower engagement rate on those posts. And so that really goes to show you that more followers, a bigger audience, really isn't always better. And so that's just important to think about when you're thinking of your social strategy and the different influencers you want to engage and work with. Another thing to remember when you're thinking of influencer partners and why you should bring them on board is you are a lighthouse in a messy ocean of noise. So those influencers are your lighthouse. So while organic reach continues to decline in social media, it's not dead. We hear that a lot of times, that organic reach isn't possible anymore. That's not true. It is in decline, but it's still the best way to build relationships and meaningful relationships with people who value and trust your brand. And so when you partner with influencers, they can be that lighthouse for you to make it through and get that attention on your organic reach. So as an animal welfare nonprofit organization, I'm trying to get animals adopted and have money raised for them, doing all that fundraising. We're competing with a lot of different brands out there, right? So we're competing with other nonprofits. We're competing with Forever 21 ads, political memes. We're also competing with what somebody's Aunt Karen had for lunch. So we're competing a lot on those platforms. So by engaging with these influencers, they can really help your content stand out amongst the sheer volume of information and content that your audience is seeing. And so here's just kind of some proof of those numbers. So a study had showed that 74% of consumers use social media to make purchasing decisions. So we know that when they're looking at those purchasing decisions, we can see that family, friends, and influencers are some of the most trusted people when those consumers are making those decisions. So Adweek reports that nearly half of all TikTok users are making purchasing decisions from brands they see on the platform. So that's based on what the brands are posting, as well as what influencers are saying about those brands. And knowing that some of the most trusted people that on social are friends, family, and influencers, that can really help you reach that new audience. If your audience is trusting that influencer just like they trust their mom or their cousin's review of an item, that can be incredibly valuable to you as a brand. And so influencers provide us with the ability to amplify our message to new engaged audiences that can't be reached through our existing channels. So a big reason that we started working with influencers at Best Friends is we have a mission to make the nation no kill by 2025. And so we want to end the killing of cats and dogs in America's shelters. Now, we have large social media followings. We can talk on our Facebook page all day long about how that's what we want to do. But if only the people that are already engaged with our mission see that, we're not going to be able to reach new people, and we're not going to reach that goal. And so by adding our influencer program on, that's helped us reach people that maybe are influencer partners who are focused on fashion or beauty. People don't follow them because of their love for animals and rescue. But if that beauty influencer posts about her adorable rescue cat she got from Best Friends, well, now she's introducing her audience to our mission, and we're reaching new people we might not have reached before. And you can also see there's a really large return on investment for influencer marketing. So it has a 11 times higher return on investment than a standard digital campaign. So just like what I was saying, where people trust those people, it also helps you reach that new audience that you're trying to connect with. Having these influencer partners can really help you do that. And so when you're creating a program, so you've decided, yes, I'm really interested in doing influencer marketing. What should we do? What are our kind of steps that we should take to create it? So something that we did as an organization was identify our priorities. What did we need to see from influencers to be successful? And so when we're looking at influencer partners, these are kind of the things that we identify. So we'll look for an engagement rate of about 1 to 3%. That's pretty average. That's kind of like the national average for social posts if they're doing well. And so we look for that higher engagement rate. We want to make sure the audience of our influencer partners is engaged. A goal of 90% real audience. So making sure they're not just all spams and bots that are following them. An audience of at least 1,000 with a focus on those nano and micro influencers. We do have partners that are larger, but we know that since we know their audience is more engaged, that's kind of our focus. And then regular recent posting. Sometimes influencers might have high followers, but if they only post every 6 weeks, their audience isn't going to be engaged with them. And so that's also something we look for when we're looking at how are we going to find partners. Other priorities we look for outside of kind of those like analytics are a low possibility of controversial history. That can mean a lot of different things for your brand. For Best Friends, we look at like if they have any, especially if they're like an animal focused influencer, have they had any sort of like bad history or reports about mistreatment of animals or anything like that. We want to make sure the content will align with our brand and that they're going to be introducing a new audience. So when I say content aligns with our brand, if we only ever worked with vegan influencers who foster dogs and only adopt, not shop, we're not going to reach that new audience. So while we do look for people that kind of fit with those guidelines, we also are looking for people who maybe, like I mentioned, that beauty influencer who she isn't an obviously animal advocate, but she had rescued her cat, she adopted her dog from somewhere, then that could be somebody that we could partner with. And so it's important to look at those two, not only looking for those people that are a real obvious connection for your brand, but people that might help you reach those new audiences. So when we look at people that we want to reach out to for our program, we look at a couple different things. So right now, still our program is only about a year old here at Best Friends, and we have about 180 influencer partners currently. But when we're looking at growing, we look for people who already love us. And so we're looking for those internal influencers, like our staff and volunteers. We have several staff that have like foster influencers, social media accounts, volunteers who've come out to our sanctuary who love us, that maybe are also fashion influencers. The first thing we did when we wanted to do this was we sent an email to all of our volunteers when we're going to grow our program. So we're looking for these internal people that already engage and love us. We sent an email to all of our volunteers, and then we had about 500 emails back, which was a lot for anyone to respond to. So we don't recommend really doing that when you're first starting out. Maybe try to figure out a better way to connect with your internal audience to see if they'd be like to be a part of your program. Don't just send the mass emails, because that wasn't a great experience for us. It took us a long time to go through those emails. It also meant that it was a really delayed response for some of these people, and so they kind of lost interest, or it just wasn't a great experience for everyone all around. So we don't recommend doing that. But you can also just build, but that is a great way to start building that relationship. Do a pulse check, kind of confirm interest with past or lapsed influencers. So while we didn't have an influencer program officially before, we did still have influencers that we had worked with in some way. So we reached out to them again, said, hey, we're actually formalizing this. Would you like to be a part of our program? And we wanted to make sure and hear from them that they did want to be that. So don't just assume that people want to continue to be engaged. And then you can also look at who's already engaging with you. Look at who follows you on your social accounts. Who is commenting on your post? Do you have DMs from influencers on your different platforms? So looking at those, that's another great way to see who already loves you. So you're not having to go out there and do a total like cold call ask for someone who maybe has never heard of your organization. Start here, start internally with what you already have. You can also use social listening tools. There's a lot of different kinds available. Upfluence is one we've used before. There's a new one, Paladin, that we just transferred to. So there's a couple different social listening tools that you can use that will also help you track and see who is commenting on your post, who's tagging you and things. And so while you might miss that DM that you didn't see, by using these listening softwares, they help you catch all of those things so you can see who did engage with you in some way. And so you can see if they'd like to engage further and be a part of your program. When you're coming up with your program, kind of think about different ideas of campaigns or partnerships that you would like to have people a part of. So what do you want your influencers to do? You've decided, hey, we want to do this. Here's the people we want to be a part of it. What are your goals? So these are kind of the goals we have for our program at Best Friends. Increase brand awareness. That's a big one for us. And it's kind of the mainly driving force for our influencer program, is making sure we're getting the Best Friends name and image out there in front of new people. Promoting adoption. That's something that's been really great. We've done a couple big adoption weekends this year, some of our different campaigns, and we've seen a really great response from our influencers wanting to just share and encourage people to adopt during those big adoption campaigns. Advocacy, so whether that's national or regional, so if there's some sort of legislative action or vote happening in their community, engaging those influencers, letting them know how it impacts their world and what they can do to help their community is a great way. Different campaign support, so we have a couple campaigns coming up focused on puppy mill awareness, as well as a big dog campaign to encourage people to adopt big dogs. We've brought influencers in on those campaigns, asking them to wear branded apparel. And so that's another great way just to get our name out in front of people. And then fundraising too. So I do have like proceed with caution here. Just because not every influencer is going to be comfortable asking for money from their audience. And so while we do use our influencers to help with fundraising asks, we're we limit those. So we're not always asking them all the time, hey, will you ask your audience to donate to us? We try to pick our big fundraising days. So Giving Tuesday, end of year, those are kind of our big focuses where we try to engage your influencers. And we also try to see, are they comfortable with those asks? Like if we know an influencer isn't comfortable asking for donations from their audience, then we try to shift them to these other campaigns that might encourage adoption or fostering. But really, the sky's the limit with your program. So whatever your goal is with your influencer partners, your hope is that they can help you do, like ask them. We have found that influencers are incredibly supportive of our mission and want to be involved. They want to participate. And so that's something that I encourage you to do, is look at kind of what are your big missions, what are your big focuses of your organization, and see how influencers could help you. We also build a content calendar for our influencer collabs. So while we do focus on kind of those main things, as well as activations on like campaigns and fundraising, we also look at just like really fun, like random, it's National Peanut Day, and this like there's like a rescue influencer dog who loves peanut butter. So maybe we ask them to do a post for National Peanut Day for something that we can use on our channels. Or we ask them to do it. We've sent them a bandana that they'll wear for their National Peanut video. So there's those fun, goofy holidays, those one-off collabs you can do. Another one-off collab we did recently is we had somebody who is an astrology influencer, and we have partnered with him to where he matched animals up for adoption at our sanctuary with what astrological sign should adopt them. And so he was going through, if you're a Taurus, then this black cat is the cat for you. If you're a Gemini, then this horse, whatever it might have been. So that was a really fun kind of one-off collab that got our animals in front of people. It fit with the branding of that influencer, and just got our name out there as well. So program cost is probably what everybody's on their thinking right now. Like, oh, cool, this sounds really great, but how much is this going to cost me? So the most complicated answer to this question is time. It's important to think about when you're starting an influencer program. Are you able to hire a person to take on this new program, or is this going to be a lift for your current employees? Influencer management is very similar to donor stewardship. At least that's how we've treated it here at Best Friends. There's a lot of one-on-one personalized communication that you're doing. And it can be a big time suck. It's a big focus. I have influencers. Someone recently reached out and they want to save 1 billion cats, them in their program, and they want to know how can they quantify that. So instead of me just like answering their question, I'm now doing data research with our data team. I'm reaching out to our network partners. We're trying to figure out those answers. So it's not just so much where I send them a toolkit and they make beautiful content and it's over. We've got to steward that relationship and make sure that we build that and know that it is a two-way street. Just checking my notes, sorry. Another program cost is how are you going to find those new influencers? So I mentioned those listening softwares. There are some that are a lower cost, but some of them can be expensive. How are you going to manage those relationships? How are you going to track the posts that they make? So those are all things and all costs that you should take into account, as well as your person, your software that you have, that time. But how are you going to honor these influencers? Are you going to be able to send them merch? Are they going to be able to invite them out to your facility? What does that look like? So thinking about those costs, time is a big thing, but also think about those other extras that you'll do. Another thing that could be a big cost is if you pay influencers. So when we first started at Best Friends, we had thought like we're not going to pay influencers. We were certain about that. We thought they'd come on board to use their platform to give a voice to the voiceless and donate their platform. But then it got really, once we launched this program, a lot of our internal staff were very, very interested in having influencers be a part of their campaign. Hey, we're doing an adoption weekend at this one small shelter. Can you get influencers to talk about it? Hey, we're launching a new hat. Can we send it to all of our influence partners? Can we find an influencer for this campaign? What about this really targeted specific thing? Can they share this image? So there was a lot of things internally where we kind of had to draw those lines of what are we going to activate our influencer partners for? And what does that look like? Because if we're activating them all the time, like what kind of compensation can we provide? We decided after all of that, that we will not be paying our influencers partners. There's a lot of legal obligations and restrictions you have to look at. So that includes drafting a contract, making sure you're following FTC guidelines. How much would you pay? What does that look like? If we only paid some influencers and the other influencers talk, that photo I had in the last slide, these were influencers that attended our conference, and we had mentioned to one of them, oh, we'd love for you to come out to our sanctuary sometime. So then the next day when I ran into the other one, she's like, I heard you invited so-and-so to your sanctuary. I was like, of course we were going to invite you as well. So they talk to each other. So that's important to remember. So we went back and forth a lot. We looked at all of the different restrictions that could come with and the issues that could come with paying our influencer partners. And so in the end, we just decided that we would not be paying our partners. It does vary. Some nonprofits do pay their partners. But we decided that once we started paying our influencers, it would be very difficult to stop, very difficult to choose who we pay and who we don't. And so that was something that when we first approach our influencers, we're very clear about. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later. So while we don't pay our influencer partners, it is important to kind of remember that they are often paid for what they're doing. A lot of them, this is their livelihood. And so kind of the industry standard, now it varies greatly how much influencers might get paid. Kind of the industry standard is 1 penny per follower. And so some mega influencers could be paid 10,000 or more. We have worked with influencers. I know one adorable dog influencer who they donate their platform to us, which is phenomenal. But I know that their starting price is 25,000 per sponsored post. And so those prices can really vary greatly. But this is a great thing to remember. You can always, or the influencer softwares that I mentioned, some of them do include like an estimated cost per post for influencers, but a lot of them do have their own pricing as well. And so that's also important to remember. While this is the industry standard, some like the adorable little dog I mentioned earlier had a much higher cost. So it's really like the Wild West. So every influencer sets their own value and their own prices. They might not be able to donate their platform. They might not have a nonprofit discount. And since we know it is a growing career field, it's really important to be respectful of that fact. So you never want to insinuate an influencer is not worth what they're asking. So that's just another really important thing to think about as well. Yes, we think of, I feel like influencer as a career is a very new concept and a very new idea. And so we never want to act like, well, it's just a post on your social. Like, why would you not want to do this for us? Remember, it is a lot of their livelihoods, and we want to make sure we're showing them that value and respect. So you've decided you're going to do an influencer program. You're going to do it. You've decided if you're going to pay people or not. You've kind of started to reach out. How do you start? So making contact to me is like the scariest step. I know I was horrified the first time. They're like, just email this influencer. I was like, how? What do I do? So what I typically like to do before I reach out to an influencer is interact with them. I like them to see that we have seen their posts before I'm asking them for something. So I'll comment, I'll like related posts. We'll follow their accounts. We might send them a DM or email. And so that's what I typically do after I've done that interaction. I will send, I guess industry practice says, or best standards say, an email is most effective. I've found DMs to be pretty effective as well when reaching out to new influencers, specifically, or especially if you have that previous relationship built with them. But when I send that DM, I am very clear that we do not pay influencers. So that initial outreach, I say, hi, my name is Ash. I'm with Best Friends. This is who we are. If I don't think they know, we're looking to grow our influencer program. We would love to have you be a part of it. We're looking for influencers who will donate their platforms to help save them all. And so we're very clear about that. We do offer swag. So if you are interested in being part of our program, please let us know. And please email me your mailing address and shirt size to this email address. I try to bring the conversation off of DMs and into my inbox, so that way I can capture their contact info. A great example that I didn't do that with is Potato Chip Pup, the dog on this slide. So we had just sent DMs back and forth. They had agreed to be a part of a campaign. It was great. It was before we started offering swag to people and they signed up. And so all I know about Potato Chip Pup is that that's his name. And he has a couple thousand followers on social. I have no idea where he lives. I have no idea what their email address is. I have no idea who his humans are. So that's not a great feeling, right? I'm like emailing Potato Chip. Obviously, that's not who I'm talking to. So I do encourage you to try to figure out a way to capture that contact info. So by asking them to email me their mailing address and shirt size, then I capture the email address, mailing, hopefully their full name, their real name. So it's not just Potato Chip Pup. And I do try to capture that way. And if at first you don't succeed, if they don't respond to your DM, your email, try again. It's not just a one and done thing. However, if that influencer does respond to you and say, I'm not interested, I'm not able to do unpaid collabs at this time, it's important to respect that. So how will you communicate with your influencers? So you've got your program on board. There's a couple different things you can do. So sometimes we'll do monthly campaign shares over email. Email is the most common way that we communicate with our influencers, especially when we're launching a campaign and asking for their activations. We do one-on-one personalized communication too. So several of our influencers have my cell phone number and they text me if they have questions, or if I know they're going to be at our sanctuary, I want to make sure they have a good contact info. Some of them have wanted to set up an in-person or a virtual meeting to talk about what they're looking for with their partnership, what they're passionate about, whether they're a cat person or a dog person or whatever it might be. We've always talked about, with something we haven't launched, is doing a newsletter for some of our lower priority partners. And so those would be people that maybe don't have as high of an engagement rate, but we know want to work with us. Maybe they don't post as often, but we do have some sort of historical relationship with them. So that's something else that we've talked about doing. And you also might not ever actually talk directly to the influencer. You might be talking to their representation. I have a lot of contacts at the dog agency of dog influencers who have agents, which is something I never thought I would ever do. So some of them who have that professional representation, so you might be talking with that agent instead of actually the influencer themselves. And so that's important to know too. And you want to remember, this is a partnership. This is a two-way street. And so kind of my next slide is really just about stewardship. This is a relationship that you have with your influencers. Just like I mentioned with donor stewardship, influencer stewardship, I believe, is incredibly important. So we make sure to not just comment and like posts of things that directly relate to our campaigns. It's not, oh, you posted about our adoption weekend, so we liked that, but we're not going to talk to you or engage for another 6 months. No, we want to make sure that we're talking with them on social and through email, sharing information with them. We do stewardship emails and mailing. So I work within our donor database. We kind of have plans set up for our influencer partners to where I reach out to a certain amount a week just to say, hey, I saw this and I thought of you. Oh, I saw it was your birthday. I hope you had a great day. Like those kinds of things. We had one influencer recently who is a fashion non-binary influencer, and they got to walk a runway. And so I was like, I saw this. This is so amazing. Congratulations for you. So we try to do those touches. So we recognize that they're more than just, it's not a transaction. It's really a relationship that we're building with them. Other things we do is we send birthday, holiday, congrats on your new baby, your new pet cards, as well as sympathy cards. We offer a facility visit. So if people are going to be near our sanctuary, or if they live in LA and would like to come see our LA facility, those types of things, we always encourage that. We'll send them event invitations. So when we do virtual events for our donors, we'll typically include influencers in those events as well. And then we also love to send swag. So whether it's their birthday, so we're sending them something, or a surprise and delight, we saw this, we knew you would love it, so we wanted to send it your way. That's another way we really like to steward and talk with our donors. And this is a great example. It's all the pictures you've seen in the slides you might have picked up on our different influencer partners and activations and interactions we've had with our influencers. So this was a fun one where I saw Ari the Panther is a little black cat that was adopted from our New York location. She is super cute, and I saw her mom had posted that it was her birthday. And so I ended up sending them just a pack of cat toys from our online shop with no expectation. So I saw it was Ari's birthday. Happy birthday. Hope she loves the toys. Her mom made several stories. She linked where people can buy these toys for themselves, for their cats. And you can see she had a really nice message back about how much fun Ari had opening the toys. It was a great time. She insisted on playing with all of them right now, even though it was a whole pack. So that was just a really great example of like how that stewardship, let me back up. So that was just really great to see how much they valued that stewardship. And while our intent wasn't to have her post about receiving that swag, she did. And so that was a really nice perk for us and our organization. So when you're reaching out to influencers, hey, I want to collaborate, you're trying to figure out how to do that campaign. I strongly encourage you to let them make their posts their own. And so we've all kind of seen, I'm sure on social, where they have their own voice and everything's great. And then you see they do a sponsored post that's very not them. You can tell it wasn't them. You can tell they didn't write the copy. So we don't recommend sending stock images and asking influencers to copy and paste. It will not resonate with their audience. And then you'll be disappointed that it didn't do well. They'll be disappointed, and so will their audience, because the audience will know it wasn't an authentic relationship. And so we encourage our influencers to make their posts their own. We ask them to speak in their own voice, use their own imagery if they can. Now we have had influencers who have reshared our videos and people have loved it, but it was when it was like a very, I have to say it's very few and far between that we ask that of our influencers, and we only send them that content if they ask us for it. So that pre-created creative and content. But we know it will resonate with their audience so much more if they're able to speak in their own voice. So when we're reaching out, we do provide our influencers a toolkit. So we'll share campaign goals, what their impact is. So if you participate in this, our goal is to adopt X amount of animals out. If you participate, you can help save these lives, whatever it might be. We want to make sure they see why it's important that they share this with their audience. We do include branding guidelines. So while we don't include our specific, like, please copy and paste these words exactly, we do send those branding guidelines. So we let them know, like, best friends, we have a very positive tone, very happy. And so that's what we typically ask our influencers to replicate. Our messaging, we will include like bullet points. So we'll include the call to action for them. We'll include a couple like key terms that we think would be great for them to use. So we'll send them that. And then we also like to share content ideas. So while they're always welcome, again, to make it their own, and that's what we encourage them to do, if they're like, I don't really know how to post about this, we try to share a couple ideas that they can do in that toolkit to maybe help get the years going. It's very important to share your branding guidelines with your influencers. We had an example of, we had an influencer partner. We wanted her to share data about how many animals had been saved in the last year. So Best Friends, we track a lot of data for like life saving and how many animals are being killed in shelters, to see that decline, since we're really working to make the nation no kill. And so she made one video that was beautiful. It was very like visual. So she was like, this many a kibble represents this many animals. And so this is how many were killed in shelters last year, but this is how many in the past year. And look how less that is. It was a beautiful video, very positive, very visual. We loved it. And then she also made a video to In the Arms of the Angels, saying, now these are the animals who didn't live last year and who were killed in shelters. And it was a bunch of very sad photos of animals who had died. Not our brand, not our mission. So we don't encourage that. So we make sure to be very clear on what our branding guidelines is. I would encourage you to do that too, because sometimes that can turn around and bite you, and you don't want that. When you come to resharing influencer content, you want to make sure you get that influencer's permission. And so we know, like, if we have an influencer who's coming out to our sanctuary, I'll typically try to ask, are you okay with us resharing your content while you're there? And usually they'll just kind of give us a blanket, like, yes, please feel free to reshare however you would like. If we're going to move that content, like if they tag us in a story and we reshare that, that's not something we typically ask permission for because we were tagged. But if we want to pull that content off of their page and post it on a Best Friends platform, then we do make sure to get that permission. But we also, again, never promise to share. So like that example I just gave of that very sad video that influencer made, if we had promised to reshare all of her content, then that would have been a very awkward conversation that we would have had about why we couldn't reshare that particular video. So that's why we're always very clear that we will not promise to reshare their content. And things to think about too, whether it's great content or not, like, does the content fit your branding? Like I mentioned, is there space on your content calendar? If it's Giving Tuesday and we have an influencer who's decided they're going to come tour our LA Center that day, that's probably not the day for us to reshare their content. We've got a lot of other things planned for that day. Or will the content resonate with your audience? Do you think it's something like, if it's a really fun, like goofy video, is that something that's going to resonate that they made on TikTok? Is that going to resonate with your Facebook audience? Think about your different platforms and how your audience will perceive those things. And since your goal too with influencers is hopefully to get your name in front of their audience, you don't have to reshare everything that's created for you. So another kind of step that we have with our influencer partners is when we have corporate partners. So at Best Friends, we have businesses that are sponsoring us, and a lot of times they're interested in having our influencers collaborate with them to support Best Friends in some way. And so whether it's we're doing an activation or they're just looking for some partners to bring on board, that's something that we get a lot of asks about. So we do not promise influencer collabs for our corporate partners or give them our influencers' contact information. So what I typically do is when we have a corporate partner, it's like, hey, we're doing this project, it does benefit Best Friends. I'd love to bring some influencers on board. Since their overall goal is to get their name, that business name in front of that influencers, we do try to see what kind of benefits our influencers will get from that collaboration. So we do encourage our corporate partners to see if they are going to be paying our influencers. Are they going to be able to provide them something? What are their asks for the influencer? Are they just asking like, we want to send you something, and if you want to post about it, great. If not, that's fine. Or are they hoping that they will post and they want X amount of posts for that content? So what we typically do is we get all that information from the corporate partner. Then I present it to our influencers. I might ask like our partner, are you looking for cat owners? Which age demographics, engagement rates, audience size? So I make sure that the influencers I'm sharing that opportunity with are someone the corporate partner would be interested in. But I don't just give all of our influencers contact information directly to that corporation. I want to make sure that we're guarding our influencers' privacy. And so what I do is I share that information with our influencers, say, hey, we have this opportunity with this business. This is how it benefits us if you participate, and this is what you would receive if you participate. If interested, please reach out to this contact at the business. So we will share like those corporate freebies. Acana was a fun one, and so I have a picture of Mr. Elmo here. They just wanted to offer some swag bags when they were launching a new dog food. It was a dog food we used at our sanctuary at the time. So we reached out to dog owners and dog influencers to say, here's what they're offering. We had a 72% email open rate. So we were really excited to see people, our influencers, were interested in learning about this opportunity. And then 26% of them did respond. And they were able to like post too. And so Acana was able to have some really adorable photos from our influencer partners that they could share about this new food launch. So we try to see our corporate partners as like a fun bonus for our influencers. Oh, I see I'm getting close on time. So I just had a couple activations I wanted to share with y'all, and then I'll get to questions. So like I mentioned, we have about 180 influencer partners. This one was a fun activation that was a real surprise. So this influencer had tagged us on a story on Instagram that said, I've decided I'm going to drive through this area. I saw that there's a sanctuary there and I want to visit. So we reached out to her after we saw her tag and we said, hey, we would love for you to come out. We'd love to give you a tour. Are you interested? And we could set up lunch for you at our cafe. And she was like, yes, that sounds great. So we gave her that lunch, we gave her a VIP tour, and we had a little welcome bag. So we included some toys for her dog and a t-shirt and those kind of things for her. During her visit, she shared 22 stories and one in feed post about her time at Best Friends. And our Roadhouse, so we have a hotel connected with our nonprofit, saw 100 new followers after she tagged our hotel in her stories. And so we saw it helped grow our platform. So that was great. And she really put us in front of her audience with this 22 stories, which is awesome. And then the best thing ever was when we saw this comment on her post that someone said, because of you, I now follow Best Friends. So I thank you for taking us along on your journey, always seeing new things. So that was amazing. So that's exactly what we wanted. We wanted to get our name in front of a new audience, and that's what this partnership did. Another activation we had was for Giving Tuesday. So you can see in 2019, we emailed 10 influencers and we raised about $500 through our influencer collaborations or partnerships. So that meant those influencers shared our link and we were able to track donations that came through those links back to our influencers. So for Giving Tuesday last year, once we'd formalized our influencer program, we were really launching it. We emailed 95 influencer partners and we had a 12% response rate, but we raised $15,000 in donations that came in because of our influencer activations. And that doesn't include gifts that just came in through social media fundraisers that influencers created. So it was almost a 3,000% increase in donations, which is so amazing to see. So we were so excited to see that number and see such a positive response on a fundraising campaign from activating influencers. During that campaign, we partnered on TikTok. So we had 4 different TikTok lives we did. You can see the list of influencers here. We had a potential audience reach of almost 10 million, which was amazing. And my favorite part was to see the feedback we got from the audience. So during one, so this is with the trans handyman, so Mercury Stardust, she's a big cat lover. So we did a TikTok live with her and talked about best friends to her audience. And you can see some of the comments were my 2 favorite accounts together. Or someone said, this is a sign to me that Giving Tuesday means I should donate to animal charities. Thanks for the reminder. And so it was just great to see that engagement from Mercury's audience, to see they were excited to see best friends and Mercury working together. So in summary, influencers can be a huge asset to your organization. We know they're trusted by their audiences, and so they can really bring value to your org. Once you figure out your program, I would say do it now. Figure it out now. Figure out what you want to do, because it will only grow from here. Determine your goals for your partnerships and diversify those. Don't only say we want to partner with influencers so we can fundraise. Come up with some other ideas so that way you can engage influencers in different ways and different types of influencers and at different engagement levels. Steward them. This is a relationship. It's important to remember that when you're working with these influencers. And then let them make their content their own. That's also incredibly valuable. If it's not their own content, if it doesn't have their name or their voice, then it's not going to resonate with their audience. So here is my LinkedIn. Please feel free to add me, send me a DM. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has after the fact. Follow Best Friends on social. So we're Best Friends Animal Society on all these platforms. And then feel free to check out our website too, bestfriends.org.
All right, so let's go to the chat and Q&A. If anyone has any questions. I'm going to start off and kick off one. I'm a little curious, are there any influencers that you're trying to pursue right now, or any influencers you'd like to work with?
Oh, always. Always people that we're trying to work with. Nobody is coming to mind, of course, right at this moment, but I would say we're always looking to expand. And so we have that level, that like 180 that we kind of have in our program right now that we work with. Our goal is to continue to increase that program and continue to grow. Kind of our next steps too is we are bringing volunteers on, because right now I'm a team of me for managing and stewarding those 180 partners. So I do actually have volunteers that are starting soon that will help with them with that stewardship, especially that online stewardship. So they'll be able to go through and comment on our influencers' posts as best friends to represent us. Let me know if they're finding out birthdays or anniversaries or those types of things, and help us see who else is out there that is following our account that we might not have caught. So really, we're still kind of focused on that beginning stage of finding out who already likes us. But we do still do some other outreach as well. Noodle the Pug was a great one. I didn't really mention him by name, but he worked with us for Giving Tuesday last year. He was a huge catch, big fish that we were able to get. So we were really excited to work with him. And that was one where we just reached out and said, hey, we love Noodle. We were curious if you'd like to use your platform to help animals. And they said yes.
Yeah, very cool. And then are there, do you have any example projects where you guys have done it outside of fundraising? Because I know fundraising is everyone's first go-to, how much money we can raise. but are there any projects that you've been able to like quantify for, I don't know, donation drives that were just outside of fundraising?
Yeah, I think a good one for us would be those adoption weekends. Oh, I don't have any of the numbers on the top of my head. But for our different, actually, no, our Bounty partnership. So that was a really great one for us. So Bounty was a corporate partner. They reached out and they wanted to find a couple influencers for paid collaborations to promote that they were covering adoption fees for all our life-saving centers for the whole entire month of May. So that meant any animal adopted from Best Friends would have their adoption fee covered by Bounty during that time. And so that was one, that was a really amazing partnership with that campaign. We had several influencers that did get paid or received swag from Bounty for that partnership. We also shared that with the rest of our influencers. So not only the ones that were being paid or offered swag, because it was such a wonderful, or like I'll say like an easy ask. That's not the right term I'm looking for, but like who doesn't want to share about animals having free adoption so they can find homes, right? Like that's something that we know our people are interested in, helping find homes for animals. So sharing those campaigns has been really wonderful. We did see a large number of animals that were adopted during that campaign. We had some really cool activations of influencers who hadn't been engaged with us previously or as much in the past. They'd kind of fallen to the wayside. So that was wonderful for that campaign. And then we also made sure to follow up with all the influencers who participated and let them know how many animals were adopted overall. And then we had some influencers who then went and shared those numbers with their audience on their stories of like, look, because you guys were so excited, this is how many animals we found homes. We were so excited to work with Best Friends for this partnership. So that was a great one too. I wish I had better numbers for that, but I don't. I'm sorry.
No, that's a great example. That is a great example. So like, I mean, even turning that for people who aren't shelters could be, you know, volunteer drives using influencers for that. We have a
Exactly.
question. We have a question from the audience from Chris. He says they're just starting out. Should we pursue influencers that are primarily a certain platform? Is one platform better than the other? Instagram, Twitter?
It really depends on where you're seeing the value. So for Best Friends, Instagram and TikTok are kind of our highest growing platforms. And we're trying to reach that Gen Z audience. That's our target. And so that's why we really had that heavy focus on TikTok and working with influencers on that platform. There are influencers on Facebook. We don't typically engage with influencers on that platform, but we will share influencer activations from Instagram and TikTok to our audience on Facebook, if that makes sense. But it really just depends on what your focus is. Where are you most engaged? Like I say TikTok, but if your organization doesn't have a TikTok, don't create one just so you can try to reach those influencers. But also you don't have to have one if you're working with influencers on that platform where they can share your link and your website in their bio and then get people to learn about you. So it really just depends on what you're looking for and who you're trying to target.
And going off of that, do you normally, when you work with influencers, do you try to get them to target your own social media profile, or do you prefer the website?
I guess typically we direct people to a website. So we usually have some sort of specific campaign links, like our Big Dog campaign coming up. We're going to build out a whole web page about why you should adopt big dogs, stereotypes that people have from big dogs and shelters, those types of things. And so that's where we'll direct people to go. If it's a one-off campaign, so like when it was with the astrology influencer I mentioned, we did just ask him to like encourage people to go follow Best Friends to see more adoptable animals. So it kind of depends, but if it's a larger campaign, we'll typically have a website link that we want to direct people to.
Oh, perfect. Well, we're at the end of the hour, and Ash, thank you so much for sharing your expertise, your stories, your experience. I know, you know, influencer was not a word, you know, 5-6 years ago. We called them celebrities. And now that everyone has that opportunity to become a celebrity, it's something we have to adapt our mission, our not organizations to. We have one more. Oh, thank you from Adriana in the audience. Well, thank you again, everyone. Be on the lookout. We will be announcing our next speaker next month for our October session. So thank you again for everyone attending. Thank you again, Ash, for sharing everything you have.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thank y'all.
And everyone have a great week. And